going to do a little education night, just kind of about weight loss in general. And then one of the questions that I get a lot is really specifically about GLP medications and how they work, what they do, is it dangerous? A lot of questions like that. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do an education event so we can talk about all the things and then give you a little information about how we structure our programs here and how that might be a little bit different than the way that it's approached in different places. So we're also going to go through what happens after your weight loss journey, and a lot of people have heard about Ozempic phase. So there are definitely things that we can do after you lose the weight. We kind of refer to it as after the after, how you can rejuvenate your skin so that you have that youthful glow and youthful resilience to your skin. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do at that point as well, just to alleviate any of the fears that people might have about losing weight and what that looks like as a process from beginning to end. So with that in mind, your guide to weight loss. And thank you again for coming. So again, we're just going to talk about the science, some of the tools that we use through our process here to help us dial in your journey, and then how we dial in your maintenance journey at the end as well, so that you can keep and maintain the weight that you want, going through our programs, and then again, the aesthetic aftercare. So to start it off at its most basic, our first little question there is, if you eat fewer calories than your body needs, will you lose weight? And the answer is yes. You will lose weight. And there are very real factors that influence our ability to lose weight. Hormones, stress, lifestyle factors, they all contribute to the way that we hold on to our weight. So everyone's journey is going to be a little different and deserves a tailored approach. I'm going to kind of drop this fun fact right here because it'll come back a little bit later in the program when we talk about basal metabolic rate. But in order to lose 1 pound, you have to cut approximately 3,500 calories from your diet. So keep that in mind. That'll come back later and will help explain a little bit why sometimes we have a difficult time losing weight. So as we said, if we eat less than our body needs, we will lose weight. But then the question becomes, does it matter what I eat? And the answer is yes, not surprisingly, it does matter. Quality matters. So, and there's a reason for this. It's all about how our body responds to the food that we eat. I think it's important through any kind of weight loss or body recomposition journey to think about the way that food affects our body and the way that it works. Food is powerful chemical signaling. So when we eat whole foods, nice protein, clean protein sources, complex carbohydrates, fiber-rich vegetables and foods, our body processes those much more evenly. We don't get huge spikes in our insulin response. What happens when we eat highly processed, high-fat, high-sugar foods is that our body does not like to have those foods in our bloodstream. So food heavily laden with sugar. What our body does is it releases a lot of insulin to capture that sugar and get it out of the bloodstream as quickly as possible. Sugar is very damaging to the bloodstream, to the small vessels, and over time it wreaks havoc in there. It's like the rude guy at a party. It goes around just knocking stuff around. So insulin is released to capture the sugar like a bouncer and take it into the cells where we can use it for energy. However, sometimes we overshoot the mark and insulin comes out in a big rush. It might send 2 or 3 bouncers where only one is needed to pull all that sugar out. So we end up going a little too far and we end up in sort of a sugar crash. So we crash down low. Our body produces adrenaline, stress hormones to rescue us to get back up to what a normal level would be. And then we're left with a little bit higher rise. And then it won't be surprising to you that what happens next to keep that balance is we start craving sugary foods to keep that level boosted and to release another chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the one that makes us feel good. We get it when we pick up our phones, go on texting, when we eat sugary foods, high-fat foods. Dopamine rush comes out to help calm us down and make us feel good. So we crave that to help us calm after that giant adrenaline spike comes from eating the sugary food. So we're playing this balance back and forth. No wonder why our moods go up and down all day long when we're just trying to find this balance, when we're not able to eat whole, clean foods. So yes, the quality of our food absolutely matters. So it is a game of balance, calories in, calories out, but quality is so important in maintaining steady mood and control, and it just makes you feel better in the long term. Calorie counting in daily life. On any weight loss journey, it's very important to know how many calories you can eat in a day in order to achieve the weight loss that you want. So it's important to know how to do that, at least for a little while. It's a pain though. Nobody likes calorie counting. It is helpful to know the foods that you eat most often though, and get that calorie count in there so you have a good idea of what that's doing. And that'll come into play later as well when we do our basal metabolic rate. So we figure out how many calories in a day you need to eat based on your basal metabolic rate if you want to lose weight. Doing the calorie counting is helpful, even if it's only for a short amount of time. There's a bunch of apps that can help, so you can use MyFitnessPal, Lose It, and even Noom. They're great ways to track calories. It's labor intensive at first for sure, but at least for the first month or two, even it is helpful because it helps you know how many calories you're taking in. So that's one little tip for you. And then here we'll come into basal metabolic rate. It's one of my very favorite tools that we use here as part of our weight loss program. So we have a machine that helps us calculate that. It's based on bioelectrical impedance, and we'll kind of go through that later. But basal metabolic rate is the amount of calories you burn just existing in a day. So for example, I just had one client and her basal metabolic rate was 1,700 calories in a day. So that means if she's not doing a lot of activity, just kind of sitting at her desk at work, she's gonna need to eat about 1,700 calories a day to keep her weight exactly where it is. If we wanna lose weight, we need to eat fewer calories. If we wanna drop 1 pound, we need to eat 3,500 fewer calories. So that's kind of a recall back to the first slide. We have our little fun fact. So my basal metabolic rate when I first started my weight loss journey was 1,300 calories. So if I try to take out 300 calories a day from my diet, I'm on a starvation diet, which is not helpful. But it was very insightful for me to learn that, why it was so hard for me to lose weight. So I needed to figure out how to increase my basal metabolic rate while still being able to safely cut calories. So your basal metabolic rate is really critical to knowing what's happening with your metabolism. So I could tell from my basal metabolic rate being so low that I did have a degree of insulin resistance going on. And that's sometimes where medication can be really helpful because it helps overcome the insulin resistance while you're building muscle, what it means to go on a weight loss journey, the factors that can influence the way that we lose weight. And now we're just kind of touching into your basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is the amount of calories that you burn just at rest on a daily basis. Waking up, going about your day, this is kind of the basic level of calories that you burn. If you add exercise and activity on top of it, you'll burn more calories. So obviously that's a good way to give yourself a little more headroom. We also talked about the idea that in order to burn 1 pound off or lose 1 pound of weight, you need to cut about 3,500 calories from your diet. So for me, my basal metabolic rate was 1,300 calories in a day when I first started. So if I want to lose 1 pound, I really don't want to cut 300 calories a day because that puts me way too low. We don't want to go below 1,000 calories a day. So it's going to take me much longer to lose weight. So I just have to cut maybe 150 or 200 calories, add in some exercise, but that's very difficult. That leaves you no wiggle room for snacking. You have to be literally perfect every single day. And if you get a little craving or if you take a little bite of this or that, you're automatically over. So that's why it can be so difficult for some people to lose weight because their basal metabolic rate is lower than other people's. So it's a trick of knowing what that basal metabolic rate and finding what your individual roadblocks are so that we can tailor a program to help you get through those roadblocks successfully without having to go on a fad starvation diet, something that you're never going to be able to maintain later. Because the real goal is finding a healthy weight with really good body composition, with healthy muscle mass. Muscle mass is the most important factor in your overall health and longevity and your metabolism. Anybody who's in any of our programs knows how passionate I am about muscle mass, particularly for women. Studies show we are more likely to die from falling and breaking a hip than we are from breast cancer. The best way to prevent falls and frailty in later life is muscle mass. We need to be lifting weights, we need to be lifting heavy weights. Muscle is metabolism. It'll raise your metabolic rate at rest. Doing nothing else, when I lift heavy weights, my basal metabolic rate goes up. It's now at 1,400 because I put on 3 pounds of muscle. So that's my goal, is to keep building my muscle mass, particularly your large muscles. They're going to be the most metabolically active. So those quads your biceps, your deltoids, those big chunky muscles, build them. That's going to support your long-term health. It supports your flexibility and keeps you healthy for a lifetime. So one of the ways we do that, I've talked about it a couple times, is our body composition machine. So what it does is it does a full analysis of body fat mass, muscle mass, which are great, all good to know. It helps give us an idea of what your basal metabolic rate is. Super important, also really good to know, but it also tracks some of my very favorite things, which is visceral fat. Visceral fat is the stuff that's kind of packed inside around your organs. It's the stuff that's around your kidneys and your liver, your intestines. It's down deep inside, and it gives a lot of inflammation. It's very metabolically active. It's talking to all the other cells in your body, and is another reason why it can be hard to lose weight, because it promotes holding on to weight rather than burning it. The less you have of visceral fat, the better your long-term health outcome is. So we want to see a visceral fat at about 9-ish or less. That conveys less inflammation in the body, and again, better health outcomes in the long term. So we do use our machine to track all those things, which is, we love it, it's fantastic. Ours is bioelectrical impedance. It's non-invasive, it does not hurt. A lot of gyms have them. Ours is a little bit different. Ours has a couple of features in addition to just the basic body composition. Ours does a full 3D body scan. It does your measurements from neck all the way to your ankles. It does a posture analysis as well. So it can show you where you're maybe holding tension or where your posture's out of alignment. And the reason I like that is because if I'm coaching you to build a lot of muscle and lift heavy weights, I want you to know if your posture's not right. Like if you're standing with a little booty tooch and you go try to lift weights, you're gonna put a lot of pressure on your low back. I want you to know that ahead of time so that you can correct for it. And that way you can start standing and occasionally pulling your shoulders back if it tells us you have a rounded shoulder. So I feel like though it's not as critical to body composition and weight loss, it is supportive for your confidence, your long-term posture and well-being, your skeletal strength. So I do think that that's an important component that others don't have. And I'll show you my original body blob, I call it. Our scan gives you a 3D impression of yourself that you can turn and look in 360 degrees. But the cool thing about it is it allows you to track your progress over time. So you can see on mine, I lost a certain amount of inches on my left upper arm, my right upper arm. So it is really helpful for tracking purposes. You can also track your basal metabolic rate, your visceral fat, skeletal muscle mass, basic body fat composition. So it's a really helpful tool. Even when we get to the point where you've achieved your goal weight, but now we're working on that skeletal muscle mass and that visceral fat, this is where it comes in, because you might not be seeing the victory on the scale. We're gonna get the non-scale victory by being able to continue to see your progress on that machine. So it's really helpful in that way. So we use the scan to personalize your plan. So yes, we can tell how many calories you need to eat in a day. So we tailor a plan. We can give you a 1-week diet plan to help you achieve that, to give you some ideas of what you can eat. And then that's where the calorie counting comes in handy for at least a month or two, to take what you're eating so that you can confirm that that's where you are, that you're in the sweet spot where we should be seeing results. So we do our body composition, we do customized nutrition plans, we do some basic exercise coaching. We're not personal trainers, so I can't give you the details, but we can definitely give resources for personal trainers if you want to take it further in that way. And then we have pharmaceutical options, and that's kind of the bulk of what we'll talk about for the rest of the evening, is some of the pharmaceutical options that can help break through some of the barriers. Because let's be honest, if willpower really worked, nobody would ever have a problem with their weight. But for me, willpower was just not enough to break through. And I felt like I was doing all the right things. I was eating the way I was supposed to eat. I was exercising, and I still wasn't losing weight. So I did use medication to help me get to my goal weight, and then now I'm just using good old-fashioned weightlifting to help build my muscle mass back up. So that's kind of why we're here, is to talk about medications, specifically the GLP medications. So you might have heard of them as like Ozempic or Wegovy or Zepbound or Mounjaro. Those are the medicines that we're talking about today. So I wanted to give you an idea about when to consider medications for weight loss, some of the reasons you maybe shouldn't take them, and who benefits the most. So when the things that we're doing haven't worked and we feel like we're doing all the right things, that's a good time to talk to somebody about the potential for using medications to assist your weight loss. If you have medical conditions, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, even people with arthritis and fibromyalgia, because it's very hard to move when you have body pain. It's very hard to do the movement and the lifting and the exercise when you have knee pain and back pain. Some of these medicines can be profoundly anti-inflammatory, so they can actually help your pain. And they help you take some of the weight off without having to put that extra strain on your body. Once you start to get that weight off, you start to feel better. I'll share a story from one of our clients who came to see us for her weight loss journey, and her goal was to be able to go to Alcatraz. And last year, they were planning a trip and she did not go because she knew she wouldn't be able to walk all that distance because she had really bad knee pain and she just physically wasn't able to walk that far. And she did not want to take their little trolley or their little thing that they had. She wanted to be able to walk it. So working with us, she's been able to lose over 50 pounds, and she just did her trip to Alcatraz and she was able to walk the whole thing. I know, it was amazing. It was a bucket list trip for her, and I was so happy for her that she was able to do it. So sometimes you just need that extra help. Again, if willpower was enough, we wouldn't ever need to think about anything else. So we've kind of already gone through what we're going to talk about. So I would like to talk about how the medicines work, because I do get a lot of questions about people with concerns. They've heard a lot about side effects. So I do want to kind of talk a little bit about side effects, because there are some important ones to know about. So there's a black box warning on the GLP medications. The black box warning means that they found something serious in the trials, and they think serious enough that people need to know about it. So what they found in the animal studies of these medications was that they developed two very particular kinds of cancer. They developed medullary thyroid cancer and multiple endocrine neoplasia, two very rare, very specific kinds of cancers. The researchers were not all that surprised to find those cancers developed because those rodents are very prone to those kind of cancers in the first place. So if they're going to develop one, those are the ones they're going to develop. Fortunately, in all the years these medicines have been used in humans, and it's been over 15 years now that these medicines have been in use from the beginning, they have not seen that in humans. So that's really encouraging. So the black box warning is still there on the medicine. So what they're saying is the best guidance is if you have a personal history of either of those two types of cancers, medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia, you shouldn't use these medicines. Or if you have a strong family history of either of those things, you shouldn't use these medicines, just because we don't know if that's going to contribute. And honestly, that's really the only two strong reasons why someone shouldn't use it. The other one is bowel obstruction. If you've ever had a situation where you got a blockage of your intestines and you had to go to the hospital because you were completely blocked, it's a terrible idea to use these medicines because of the way that they work in slowing down the way things move through your GI tract. It makes you very prone to potentially developing another obstruction. So I would say, outside of those three concerns, just about anybody can use these medications. So that's a wonderful safety profile, and it's been really successful for a lot of people. I would say that there has been a little bit in the literature about pancreatitis, that taking these medications is going to promote pancreatitis. I was just reading a research article today because I wanted to see if anything new had come out, and I wanted to be able to explain to you guys like maybe why that would be happening. And it was awesome because I found that a recent study, it's called a meta-analysis. It's a study that looks at a bunch of other studies. It's a really good quality research, and they showed that there's actually no link between these medicines and pancreatitis, so that's really awesome. And they were actually really looking hard to find a connection between the two, and what they actually found was that these medicines conferred a lower lifetime risk of pancreatitis than those who didn't take it, so that's actually really cool. One thing that it can flare up is your gallbladder, though. So if you have a history of gallstones or gallbladder disease, there's the potential that it could flare that up. It's not a reason necessarily to not take the medicines, but it is a reason for me to watch you more closely while you're taking the medicines. So if you develop any pain after eating, I want to know about it so that we can talk about it and make sure that it's not gallstones. Otherwise, the safety profile of the medications is looking to be pretty great so far. We've had very successful patients. I think that one of the reasons we've had some really wonderful outcomes with really low incidence of side effects is because we do things a little bit differently. In family practice, we were always taught that you start at the beginning dose and then you increase every month by a certain standard. Depending on the medicine, it's a little bit different. And you don't ask questions, you don't hold the dose, you just escalate. And we don't do that here. We don't just bombard you with medications. We feel that if you're successful at a particular dose and your side effects are tolerable at that dose and we're meeting our goal, there's no need to increase it. Increased risk of side effects, the higher we dose the medicine. So we like to find the sweet spot for you. Our goal is that you're losing 1 to 2 pounds per week with low side effects. So we ride that line when we have really great options to be able to do outside of the standard dosing, which is great. You can't do that with the injector pens. So we have access to different medications that allow us to tailor and customize the dose for you so we can get exactly the effect we want without giving you too high a dose of medication. We talked a little bit about how the drugs work. They slow down the movement of food through your GI tract, so your stomach doesn't empty as quickly, so you feel full faster, and you stay full feeling longer. The 2 different basic medicines that we talked about, the Ozempic is a GLP-1 medication, glucagon-like peptide. The other one is a combination. They're both peptides, like insulin is a peptide. Our peptides are natural to our body. These peptides are formulated to be similar to the peptides our body naturally produces. So that's why they have a pretty decent safety profile, because they do things that our body is already doing. So we're just giving it a little bit extra of these peptides. So the GLP peptides works in the way that it gets your body to stimulate a little more insulin. We talked a little bit about insulin earlier. Insulin is released in response to the foods that we eat to capture that food energy and take it inside the cells where our body can burn it up and use it as fuel. So that's what it's doing. It's kind of getting our body to burn the food as fuel rather than storing it as fat. So that's one of the ways that it's working. It's also slowing down the movement through the GI tract. The GLP-GIP does everything that the GLP does, and it has an added benefit. It slows down the production of extra sugar from your liver. So it's helping to calm that glucose response, so it helps us overcome the insulin resistance a little bit better. One of the really neat things about these medicines that's really recent in the literature is how they work on the craving system in the body. We talked a little bit earlier about how we get in that cycle of craving foods. So we eat a sugary food, our body releases dopamine in response, we feel so good, it's amazing, and then we crash, and then we release stress hormones, and then we crave something sugary to calm that down so we feel good again. And it's this horrible vicious cycle that leads us, whenever we want something, we kind of start craving those sweet foods. So these medicines actually work on the craving center in the brain, so that when we do eat something sweet or something that triggers that dopamine response, it actually blunts that response a little bit, so you don't get that huge satisfaction from it. The cool thing about that is it gives you an opportunity to really think about what you're about to eat and whether or not that actually sounds good. So it's essentially kind of helping you with willpower, so that you have a moment to think, is that really going to make me feel good? And so you have an opportunity to say no. What I'm hearing from my clients is that a lot of them are saying after a little while that sugary thing, the fried thing, actually does not smell good. It smells really bad. And then what they want is something really clean. I just want a salad or just a lot of water. So it's actually really neat. And they're studying them now on alcohol addiction, cigarette addiction, because of the way it blunts that dopamine response. So it's really fascinating on the way that it works. Where my clients seem to find this in practice is in what they call food noise. I don't know if you guys have heard that term before. It wasn't on my radar. And then my first few clients were like, yeah, food noise is gone. And I was like, what do you mean? And it's that constant little, what am I gonna eat? Oh, that little snack sounds good. But that's what am I gonna have for dinner, or maybe dessert, or what are we gonna go out and do? All that, it kind of disappears, and you're just not thinking about food. Food becomes what it's meant to be, fuel for your body. Food is packets of energy. It allows you to think of it that way, the quality of the energy that you're putting into your body. It allows you the opportunity to just think about that and make a better choice, making the choice you want to without that constant barrage of physiological response and craving and emotional impact of it. It's pretty fascinating to me. So I talked a little bit about how we have the opportunity to dose in particular ways, and that's because we have a different source of the medicine. So obviously we can work with your insurance. If your insurance covers these medications, we are happy to assist in prescribing that through your insurance. We can also assist in prescribing directly to the major pharmaceutical companies, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly Direct, so you can get it directly from them. From them, we're using the standard dosing. I don't have a lot of wiggle room with them, but we also have the option to do compounded medications. And I feel it's a really good opportunity to talk about that because I feel it's been all over the news. Compounded medicines are the devil, they're poison, all of these horrible things about compounded medicines. I think it's important to know that compounding pharmacies have been around for a really long time. Typically, they found their start in making medications for people who perhaps had an allergy to the original thing. If you've ever gone to get amoxicillin for your kid and it's got that red dye number whatever in it, some kids don't respond well, some kids are allergic to it. It's a compounding pharmacy that's going to make that for you without the flavor or without the red dye. Anyone who has an allergy to a component of a medication, your compounding pharmacy was going to be the one to make it safe for you. So compounding pharmacies are a really important part of our medical supply chain. They are safe. They are inspected by the FDA. They do have a higher standard. They formulate things the same way that any other pharmacy would because they are pharmacies. So we source ours from pharmacies, not labs, not research facilities. We source ours from pharmacies, and they are prescribed for you, and they are pharmacies that have attained a higher level of certification. It's called legit script certification, and we only work with legit script certified pharmacies. So that adds for us another layer of safety, knowing that we're getting our supply from pharmacies that have gone above and beyond to show that they're compliant in every way, shape, or form. And on the other side of it, California is really hard to get medications into, so we know if a company can ship to California, they have gone even farther above and beyond to be able to ship into California. So using compounded medicines, we are able to customize your dose. We can do whatever gradient in between we need to do because the medicines are made to be able to do that. They're made for people who can't tolerate a standard dose due to nausea or constipation, which are a couple of the really common side effects of the medications. Side effects that most people talk about are the nausea and the constipation. I have had one client who had a little bit of diarrhea, but by and large, the major side effects that people report are nausea and constipation. They have never been so severe that people did not want to continue on the medication, and we have lots of strategies to deal with those. One of the strategies is we've just baked it into our program are our weekly vitamin injections we give with a targeted purpose. We do B12 for energy, which also helps a little bit with nausea. The reason we like that so much is because when you're on a calorie-reduced diet with these medications, another symptom that you can feel is fatigue. So we like the B12 because it helps balance out those feelings of fatigue a little bit, and it does help a little bit with nausea. We have one of our vitamin shots that also has a B6 in it, which is in a nausea medication that you might use during pregnancy as well. So it also helps with nausea. We also use some shots with other amino acids in them, and we really like those because some of the components like inositol can help overcome insulin resistance. So we do like that, and the methionine and the choline do additional communication in your body to help inspire it to burn fat as fuel. Used alone, I don't feel like they are going to make you drop weight, but we do have some people who really love to just come in and get that, we call it our fat burner shot. It's one of our most popular shots, and people will come and get that because of the extra energy it gives them. I feel like when I first started it, I probably dropped a pound or two, but after that it kind of leveled out a little bit, but it does give me a long-standing sense of energy, so I do like it. The carnitine in it does work with mitochondrial health. I don't know if any of you have heard about mitochondria. Every single cell in your body has mitochondria in it. It's the powerhouse of your cell. It's like the battery in your cell. It gives it the energy to do what it needs to do. Current studies are kind of focused around this idea that a decline in mitochondrial function is kind of causing the chronic disease and the aging process. So the thought is if we can revitalize the mitochondria, give them energy, cells can do what they do better and for longer. So we can fight the aging process, the disease process, the DNA damage process. So that's what the carnitine is said to do. It's said to support mitochondrial health, and it also, because of that, helps a little bit with brain fog, mental clarity, and that can also be a result of having a reduced calorie diet. So you get a little tired, you get a little foggy in the head, so these medicines kind of help offset some of those side effects too. Let's see. Our programs are structured to support you with personalized coaching. We talked about the nutritional guidance. We do some exercise recommendations, and we do ongoing monitoring. With our programs, you have the option to come in weekly, where we do a weight check, we troubleshoot signs and symptoms, customize your dosage. You don't have to come in weekly if that's too much, but it's here weekly for you. You have that available to you. And I feel like that's been an important part of people's success, is having that accountability, a partner. You're coming in, you're not trying to talk about all the other things that are with your health, your blood pressure, whatever else it is. This is strictly for your weight journey, to help you dial in on that. So it's a really nice opportunity to talk about some of the specific things. So when we transition our clients through, when they've reached their goal weight and they get to their maintenance, you know, it's really sort of a patient-led approach. My preference would be to dial your medication back down slowly so that you have the opportunity to perhaps experience a return of appetite, a return of cravings while you still have the medication working on your metabolism and your physiology underlying. So you get a sense of being able to practice with portion size. What amount should I be eating to maintain? Ooh, this week I did this and I lost 2 pounds. Okay, I need to eat a little bit more. So we also use our body composition machine there as well. So we can tell if you're building skeletal muscle mass, which is going to help boost your metabolism. As we dial back the medicine, we're boosting up your own metabolism so that by the time the medicine is gone, your metabolism is really firing and it's going to support you, not just for the short term. Once you come off the medicines, we don't want you to feel like you're going to have to be in like 6 months, come back on it again. We really want to make your metabolism strong and healthy so that you can stay off the medicine if that's your choice. Studies have shown that the medicines are safe in the long term. They're very protective of your heart, they're protective of your brain, they're protective of your kidneys, so they're not bad medicines at all. But if it's your choice to come off of them, we have a plan to help support you so it's safe and so it's healthy. Maybe our skin looks like it's lost a little bit of that bounce, that juiciness, it's looking a little dull. So we want to talk about some of the things that we do here to kind of help our patients feel like their skin is youthful and bouncy and radiant the way that they feel on the inside. And that's our motto. We want to nourish your vitality from the inside out. So we've talked about the inside part, so now we'll talk about the outside part. So skin laxity, that's a big concern. You know, if you lose a lot of weight, sometimes you get that wrinkling of the skin. Muscle mass helps a lot with that too. It's said to be the Spanx for your skin. So you build that muscle mass, it helps kind of tighten that up. Over time, your body can sort of shrink back in the skin a little bit, but as we age, we do lose collagen. So it makes it harder for your body to sort of spring back as we lose collagen. So we do have ways that we can address that. We have non-invasive treatments. Red light therapy has been shown in multiple studies to do a really good job at regenerating collagen. Typically in the 600-ish nanometer range, using that daily can really help regenerate your cells to produce more collagen. So that's a really good option. Minimal invasive procedures are things that we use here, like Sculptra. We even have our laser that we use, which is light therapy, a little more aggressive than the red light therapy to help stimulate your body to produce collagen and elastin. And obviously these are tailored to you, to your needs, your desires, all of that. So the laser that we have, the function is called Skin Tight, and those are some of the pictures of the actual results of things that it can do. It can tighten up some of the skin. It typically takes 6 treatments for that to do, but it's heat. Basically, in light energy, we have a little device, we apply it to the skin, and over every 2 weeks you come for 6 sessions and it generates heat under the skin. So what that does is stimulate your body to produce its own collagen. I've been using it on my neck all day. So the goal is to get your body to produce its own collagen. That's the best result, I feel, and the most natural result, and that's kind of what we go for here. I don't think any of us in here want some unnatural looking result. So the goal really in that is just to have your body produce its own collagen so that it's natural, so that it lasts longer as well. And that helps restore youthful volume, which is what we get with Sculptra. So Sculptra stimulates the body to produce its own collagen, but we've all tried a million things. And sometimes it's important to consider that medication is really helpful. I think a lot of us see it as maybe a failure if we have to try medications, or like we feel guilty, like we're gonna be taken away from our family, or is it safe, or we feel like it's a cheat or a band-aid or a quick fix. But I think that medication has been very powerfully helpful for a lot of people who have tried everything. They're doing all the right things. They need a little extra support because their metabolism and their body is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So the medication is there to help recharge your metabolism, get through the insulin resistance to help you break through the barriers that have been stopping you from making the progress that you've been wanting to see. It doesn't mean that you get to just take the brakes off and do nothing. I do have patients in the practice who have changed nothing. Are they losing weight? Yes, they are. They are not as successful as my other patients who are doing the work. My other patients who are doing the work feel better, the medication is working better, and they're really learning about what their body processes well and what their body does not process well. So from week to week, they're able to see, I didn't really feel good this week. I didn't really eat any different amounts, but I was eating more of this and less of this, and I feel real puffy and I don't feel good. So it's really that week to week touch base. It's really helpful in dialing in what foods work for your metabolism because it's different for everyone. And I do think it's important to note that using medications for weight loss is not a Band-Aid. It's not a quick fix. I've used them myself and they were really helpful for me. I don't know that I would have met my goal without them. I don't know that I would have ever got that back. I mean, would I still love to lose a pant size? Probably, but I'm really happy with the progress that I made, and I know that I will continue by building muscle. I'll be able to keep that weight where I want it to be long term. And that's what we're here to offer, is a really long-term approach to your health and well-being that incorporates the tools that you might need. It doesn't mean that you have to use medicine, but I think the best place to start is using a body composition. See where you are. Let's see where your basal metabolic rate is. That gives us a really big clue about what your internal physiology is doing. Even without lab work, it can give us an idea if you've got a basic level of insulin resistance going on. And that can tell us a lot about how to approach your weight loss with or without medication. It's really important. So the tools we use are there for the long term. We're here for the long term. We want to support you for the rest of your life. It's not about a quick fix. It's about a lifetime fix. We want you to be healthy forever. We want you to be there for as long as you want to be there. And again, our passion is being there to help you nourish your own vitality from the inside out. We're here for any questions or concerns. If you're curious about Sculptor, we have Courtney. She can do a consultation for you to see what she thinks you might want or what would work for you. And then we're here if you want to do body composition. We can do that too if you just want to look at it. I turned to this. What's included in any of our weight loss memberships, in the compounded medication memberships, is the medication itself, the weekly office visit fee, the vitamin injections, the fee for us to just be here and inject the medication, the body composition analysis that comes with it, and the counseling that goes along with it. So that's all included in the membership. Medicines can be helpful. They have found that even just shrinking your fat cells or losing weight, taking off body fat percentage is anti-inflammatory in and of itself, but these medicines all alone have anti-inflammatory capabilities as well. I have patients who have said that their backs feel better, and not just from the weight loss, but from the medication use themselves, and they don't want to stop it because they really like that anti-inflammatory